Hey, what is going on, YouTube? Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. And guys, we've got a little bit of a surprise in this one for you guys here today. The Huron here is a Tier 7 Commonwealth destroyer that I wasn't exactly expecting to get. However, Wargaming plopped her in my port this morning, and I figured I'd give her a go. And well, this was the game. Now, we don't exactly go over sort of a full first look here. I was simply reviewing the destroyer and the different perks here, but she is a tribal class destroyer, so basically think of a Lightning, except you only have one rack of torpedoes instead of two there. And as you guys saw in the consumable screen, you do only have an engine boost instead of the short duration smoke screens. Now, of course, being that Hector Waller is your commander, Scrap Iron Flotilla in the 4th slot there is definitely going to be the perk that makes this ship very strong. Having that sort of zombie heal when you are close to other ships is almost broken in a sense. I know when I'm going against vampires, I am very hesitant to try and push them or try and get them eliminated as soon as possible. But we ran the basic sort of setup here in our modifications, and we showed our consumables. You only get 8.3 kilometer torpedoes, which is a little bit of a bummer there. However, in just being that this ship plays or lends better to being closer to the targets with Scrap Iron Flotilla, with the sonar and different things like that, you're not missing too much in terms of the range. This is also a very gun-focused destroyer, as you guys will see throughout this game here, but this was our very first game, and I thoroughly enjoyed this ship. But let's go ahead and switch on over to that game and give you guys a good little strategy voiceover narration. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen, over on the A side here on Greece, and of course we have our ultimate Chad battleship support, Mr. Peak, who is sort of watching over us. This ship is going to do really well on the flanks, out in the open, dodging in between islands. As I mentioned, due to the lack of smokescreen there, you're going to be a very easy target if you are just out in the open. Now, the ship is rather maneuverable, and of course, coupled with that engine boost and decent maneuverability as I turn right into... I believe War Ant is a viewer of the channel here. As I turn right into this Provincian here, the maneuverability felt okay, as you guys will see here in just a moment. I went guns hot pretty early and often throughout this game. Now, you do want to be very wary. There was a situation towards the end or the middle to the end, where I go guns hot and I probably shouldn't have. However, you do have the 2 heals, and again with Scrap Iron Flotilla, you can heal back a certain percentage based on X, Y, or Z. I'm not 100% sure of those direct parameters, but once you get down pretty low there and you're within the detectability ring or the ring of that perk, you can heal back. It's a little bit of a zombie heal there, so a somewhat broken perk in the right set of circumstances, but without smoke, I don't see this thing being as busted as the Vampire. I've just seen some crazy games where that smoke and sonar combo, you can just eat enemy destroyers alive there.
Looks like there's a DD on the inside.
Now, with the exception of maybe the French gunboats and certain Russian gunboats, I wouldn't recommend going guns hot like this early game. You're giving up position, you're letting the enemy know where you are. And yeah, there was a bunch of destroyers over here. However, you can see we already have a fire and a decent amount of damage, all things considered. You do only have 120 millimeter guns, which are fairly low caliber. They do okay at Tier 7, and especially utilizing that AP if given the opportunity. But already you can see that we have a pretty gnarly fire chance, which is really what makes this gun build and boat viable, in my opinion. In addition to that, making sure that you are dodging when appropriate, you can see that we've now taken 2, 3, 4 salvos from the Jervis and a few salvos from that Scharnhorst, and only lost 1,000 or so health, in addition to having those 2 heals.
So, I don't know if you want to reposition our...
I'm going to be quite honest, this boat felt like what the Haida should have been, and maybe it's just a skill issue with the Haida, and even a touch of the Vampire, because when I'm playing the Vampire and I haven't played it in a while, I just don't feel like I'm as effective as I would be in the Gearing, the Light, or the Daring, or the Z-52, or another gunboat, hydro-type destroyer there. And here's a little bit of a gaff with those torpedoes that it's not a widespread, but they say it's a widespread. I always prefer having surface area as opposed to the single fire in this instance, but we were trying to guess where the Jervis was. He ended up becoming spotted. We threw it sort of as just like a prayer if he turns out, but 8-kilometer torps with only 4 of them in that spread, unless you get stationary targets or a battleship straight lining, you're not going to be having much success with these torpedoes. So you want to make sure those guns are firing at all times, which is basically what we do throughout this game. It's a little bit slow to start, but if you notice, we already have 3 fires with 30 target hits. Judging based off of other ships with a fast rate of fire, that is actually pretty decent. It's around a 10% fire chance if you're doing math there. However, it never really works out like that. A ship with a 10% fire chance, you will rarely ever see have 3 fires with 30 hits. But regardless of that, you can just see that the shells are causing damage. Now, this was a Tier 6 destroyer. If you get, thicker armor plating, you're obviously not going to be having as much success. So utilizing the AP when appropriate, but those fires, if you catch that permanent fire, you're dodging in and out of cover, you're maneuvering into caps. This ship is going to be an absolute menace. Do not be surprised if you don't see this ship in ranked or competitive. And speaking of competitive, I have been formally invited to broadcast, sponsored by Wargaming, the Ocean Cup Finals here on December 14th. So I'm going to try and not be a bot with my stream and just have dual screens available for the broadcast, so that way there isn't any hiccups. But be prepared for that this Sunday, this coming Sunday, or December 14th. At 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so whatever time zone that is for you guys. I'm going to be honest here, I should have waited just a little bit to fire or open up on that Vanguard, but he took a massive hit, and if you notice, we ended up getting 3 fires in that short, transition from Scharnhorst to Vanguard there. So with those connecting shellheads, 61 target hits with 6 fires. The fire chance is what is going to make this boat shine. So maybe adding in something additional in terms of your inspirations or something like that to help out the HE or your fire chance would make this boat even more deadly. But as it stands, and you guys probably saw it in the intro there, I was running Mr. Waller with that build that we show you guys with Sims and Bay as inspirations. But here is just a perfect example. Now again, we are up-tiered against this Jervis. This guy didn't stand a chance. Even if he was full health here, our guns, we have a 3.2 reload, 3.1 reload. With the amount of damage that we're doing to destroyers here, and we didn't really get the chance to shoot AP, plus you couple that heal and scrap iron flotilla, you do not want to get in a one-on-one in an isolated gunfight like that. If you see this ship in a division, or if you see this ship going against your friendly destroyer, if you are a support ship or even a battleship and you're not shooting at this thing, you're going to lose your destroyer. So as we've preached so many times in the past, if you are not supporting your destroyers, don't cry about it when they get absolutely shit-canned and they leave you out to dry.
He's going.
Now, you absolutely can complain about it when they do stupid things like many of my Shimakaze players do, sailing beside objectives and around them to torpedo battleships. But in this case, we are doing all the right things here in our destroyer, trying to spot, cap, and eliminate enemy destroyers. And of course, I say that right on cue, as I don't realize this thing was British, so our ability to stop is a touch compromised. Steam engines and just that British stop and start, you tend to float a little bit longer than you would have, and I miss the cap by 1 second there. And here's where it really hurt not having a smoke screen, but we're just going to employ a little bit of patience. We have torpedoes on target, and he is well within that range. I'm also looking at their guns. Where are their guns facing? They are being harassed. This game is all but over, considering Peak is alive, so their guns are facing the other way. He has torpedoes on target. As soon as I know they are kind of within that range, we're going to go ahead and open up here. Or at least I wanted to. Now, of course, we do have to get the cap, but that guy is on fire and flooding in 2 places, I believe. That's how the flooding mechanic now works. However, that flood duration is significantly less, so in reality, you're a little bit better off than you would have been. But it's also a good idea to manage your damage cons appropriately. But now that we have about 12 seconds worth of cap left, 9 now that we set it, and the turret traverse of the Kansas and the Nottingham is not the best, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and open up here. Now, this fight right here, I really wouldn't recommend. The Nottingham is a really good ship, but the only reason I kept shooting is because this guy popped his smoke screen. However, he rolls right out of it, so we are going to end up being detected anyway. But considering that we do have our sonar active and we're pushing into him, we're going to make sure he's detected while trying to maintain some of, a little bit of angle here, simply to minimize the impact that these shells would have, furthering our chances of survival. Also, we're going to cut back left because, as we know, the Nottingham's guns are in the front, and he will have to somewhat angle towards us in order to get those on target. And here's the AP, a decent bit of penetration there, even with the 120s. Now, of course, it's a rather lightly armored target, but with that elimination, a solo cap, 2 defends, we have 4 kills and 1 assist in the nice little jerk-off ribbon there. So if we can manage to get 1 more of these, this will be a nice little first game Kraken here, which would be a beautiful video. However, if you were on stream last night, you know that is not what happens. But we do manage to thoroughly impact this game, and we're just going to go out here and finish off these last 2 players, giving call-outs to our teammate as we go, based on twist and track here, and of course, or perceptive, whatever the, I believe we have perceptive rather than twist and track, but the point remains the same. The RPF signal, that little half gray circle, is letting us know that the Akizuki or destroyer, or one of the closest ship, is cresting the edge of that cap. We call that out to peak because why? Well, it lets him know that there is a destroyer to the left there. And to watch out for torpedoes, right? When you see a destroyer ping an area that you're like, what is this guy doing? That's probably what he is pinging, is his closest located ship. I can't tell you how useful this trait is, and there are certain builds and ships that I don't run it on, but in most cases, you should have this perk, right? It's super helpful. It lets you know where the closest ship is. And right on cue, there is the smoke screen of that Akizuki. The Picardy is right behind him. So don't be fooled by that. Sometimes, there will be a ship in front of your twist and track. So just, be aware of it, be paying close attention to it, and you will find yourself in much more advantageous positions more often than not. Well, here we're going to go ahead and finish off this game like I finished off your mom last night. No, I'm just kidding. The Akizuki pops out for just a moment, and here's a great example of just how deadly these shells can be. We're already reloaded, but we chunked that guy for a good amount of damage, and Peak actually gets the finish there, ruining our Kraken. So yeah, fuck that guy, but just kidding. Just a quick little final tip here. We threw zoning torpedoes at that smoke screen, and then we went ahead and looked at the Picardy and to engage him. The Akizuki just managed to pop out of his smoke for whatever reason. But there with those 2 assists, we actually managed to touch 7 people that game, so we're giving Bill Cosby a run for his money. No, I'm just kidding. But just missed out on the Kraken, but a nice little 29.89 there, very close to 3K. Final thoughts on this ship. I absolutely love it. I think it's pretty decent. I have no idea how to get it or anything like that. If one of you Discord dorks knows, I'm pretty sure it's a crate ship, or Wargaming was giving it to us to test. I'm not 100% sure. So I will try to look up that information, and if someone doesn't comment it, I will do my job as a community contributor and give it for you guys. But yeah, there is the build that we were running in that game. I think this ship is fun. I don't think it's necessarily overpowered. I do think it's going to take a little bit of skill to use. When you don't have that smoke screen, a lot of players are really hesitant to play destroyers. But some of, the most fun you can have in destroyers is those either with the different style of smoke screens rather than just smoking up and farming from a stationary position. Don't get me wrong, I love to do that too. The gearing and the Americans are very fun in that regard. But yeah, I think this ship is fun. It's balanced. This is my first game, so this is a very, very, subjective review. We haven't had a lot of data to input to it, but I'll give you guys some more, and if we get a few more bangers, we'll play it. Let me know what you guys think. Were you excited for this? Were you expecting this? I wasn't. I just kind of woke up to a random ping there, but I went ahead and played it, and I had a lot of fun with it. So that's the nature of the game. But I love you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Aaron out. Peace.